Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Very Connected podcast. And today we're being joined by Rick Tremblay. Say hello,
Hello, everyone.
Rick. We love having you. I was looking back. I thought this was our third event, but it's our fourth event together. So we just appreciate you and your time and your energy and just all of that you give us. I mean, you guys, Rick is he is a professional, but he's also had weight loss surgery himself. He's lost at the last, it was 409 pounds, maybe more than that, but that's where what he sent me. And I'm sorry, you've lost 220 pounds and you started your journey at 409 pounds. Um, you have a background in human resources. He actually does all kinds of these type of speaking events. So like if you are a professional and you're wanting Rick to come on to talk to your group, he also does those type of things.
Doing that.
And
Anyone that
I don't know
wants.
that I'm going to be able to give you justice in all of this. I'm just going to let you kind of cut in and just kind of tell a little bit about yourself. In the meantime, I'm going to mute myself and check our Facebook page too.
Sure. So, hi, everyone, again. My name is Rick Tremblay. I have been doing training HR for over 20 years. Love doing it. Love getting to know people. Love getting to share my knowledge and experiences with others. And I love hearing your knowledge and experience too, because I think we can all partner together um, uh, to just improve anything, because anything is possible. Um, like Brenda had shared, I had weight loss surgery back in September 2019, started at 409 pounds. Um, and what a journey, right? I mean, those of you that are going through the pre-op process or just thinking about it even, that's a journey in itself. And then to be able to get the surgery and manage everything afterwards, it's it's just a new and exciting journey, just all around. And I think that's one reason why, when talking with Brenda, I thought that this subject today would be really, really helpful for everyone just to kind of think about and process, right? So today we're going to talk about just how we understand self-reflection and why that's really important. I will say this from my own experience and as teaching leadership courses and business courses, um, students of life just become stronger at everything when they learn how to when they learn how to self-reflect. And why that's important, I will of course go on in the video or through the PowerPoint. And I'm just going to share my screen here. You can get that going. Just want to share screen too. Brenda, do you see all that? Yes, we do. Great. So I'm going to talk about understanding self-reflection. And excuse me, I've had another one of those long days, so I'm stumbling and speaking all over myself. But hey, that's what's making the afternoon fun a little bit for me. Um, so what
Rick,
is self? Yeah.
before you get started, I just wanted to too just tell people that if they have any comments during this, please feel free to put them in the chat box or the Q&A box. We'll be watching that really closely, and Rick's really good about taking like little pauses in between and just seeing if there is questions. We will, if you're on the live event, and so I want to make sure just say that. Also, let us know where you're from. Like if you're joining live, like let us know if you're what part of the United States
It's
you're coming
snowing.
in at. Let us know if it's snowing. I
There we
told him I'm at Chicago right now visiting my daughter, and it is snowing here, and it is so cold. And it was 80s last week in Missouri, where I was from. It's crazy. I'm sure the temperature there has cooled down too. And Rick's in Connecticut, and it's raining. You said raining there.
Yeah. Now, when you self-reflect on that, I bet you wish you were back home right now.
all except for being with my daughter. I do like
Right,
spending
right,
time with
right.
her.
Small sacrifice, a small sacrifice. Uh,
Exactly.
what is self-reflection really, right? So my apologies. Clean this up. There we go. Self-reflection involves analyzing and considering past experiences to gain insight into our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors. Another way to think about it is that self-reflection is like an internal audit, where you analyze your thoughts, your emotions to kind of better understand ourselves. And we do this through assessment, self-observation, deep thought diving, really thinking about the fine details on why or how something happened. Exploration, we're constantly exploring. And it is a first step, at least one of the first steps to fixing any problem. And then, like all processes involved, we always evaluate those, right? So we're always analyzing everything in order to get the deepest and the most meaningful self-reflection that we can possibly get. Um, what does it do, right? It allows us to gain perspective, respond more efficiently and effectively. It definitely helps us learn. And one of the best ways to help us discover is what I call the 5W2H, and it's really asking the questions: what it is, what it does, why is it important? When and where did it take place? How does it work? And how was it measured? Or is it measurable? And why is self-reflection important? Well, without a self-assessment or any kind of self-reflection, we cannot go through life without engaging in any critical thinking process. So what I'm saying here is if we don't self-reflect, we're not strong critical thinkers or problem solvers. And when we lack a personal self-reflection, it may cause us to get stuck repeating the same thing over and over and over again. And it's kind of like that old saying, or that the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, expecting something different, but still getting the same thing. Well, it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same way here. If we don't self-reflect, then we're going to get stuck in the same pattern and nothing's ever going to change. We need to reflect and explore in order to change or to bring change forward. And um, I think many of us that have gone through this program, and I would be even willing to bet all of us have at one time have had to really try to self-reflect on anything that happened, whether it was um, uh, um, hunger cravings, like why am I craving this type of food over the other type of food? Why am I having trouble in my relationship all of a sudden? Why am I um, or what's preventing me from going to the gym or exercising or going for a walk or checking my steps? All of these are really meaningful questions that we have to ask ourselves, because when we understand why or what something or why something is happening or why something happened, then we're able to kind of put a plan in place to kind of fix it up and try to improve upon that process itself.
Rick, can I ask a question?
Please.
So, and maybe you're going to get into this more deeper, but when is a good time to self-reflect? Would you say, for me, a lot of times I'll do it at the end of the day or the beginning of the morning, like what my day has been like, or whenever I find a big challenge, something that's really, I want to say difficult, but maybe, I mean, sometimes something that's like, it's triggered me somehow. Like I know that
Sure.
it's not something that I want in my life, and so I want change. To me, self-reflection is the biggest prompter, and I think in changing. So let me ask you, when do you recommend?
Well, in all honesty, I think it depends on each person because each person just reflects differently or has strengths on doing one thing over the other. For myself, for example, I find the best time to self-reflect, and usually it's because of work things, right? Is that I'll do it on my drive home, or I may do it while I'm doing a mindless activity. And what I mean by that is maybe I'm going for a walk outside or something, and I'm just, instead of listening to music or something, or maybe I will. I'll self-reflect about an issue at that time. There's really no right or wrong time, I believe, to self-reflect, except for I would say to do it the earliest or as soon as you can after the issue happened, because that's when everything is kind of fresh in our mind, right? And at least that'll start the process of self-reflection. Because the other thing about self-reflecting too is it's not usually all one and done. So I may self-reflect in this moment about something that happened yesterday, but that doesn't mean I'm done self-reflecting on it. I may have to process kind of what I was thinking or reflecting back on, and maybe I'll be reflecting across the next 2 to 3 days. But the one thing that I do want to emphasize with between self-reflection and self-awareness, because those are really two different things. And self-reflection is always past. It's always what happened in the past. Self-awareness is what's happening in the moment. So, and with this particular thing, we really want to focus on those past situations. So, to kind of come to a full circle here, Brenda, I think what I would say is that if possible, at least start the self-reflection process within 24 to 48 hours from whatever happened. Now, that doesn't mean that after this training and that you go home and say, oh, well, that happened 3 weeks ago, so I'm not going to self-reflect on it. I self-reflect about stuff that happened when I was a kid still, because life is a learning process. And if you kind of believe in that experiential learning and whatever we learn in life is kind of who we become today, that axiology and epistemology and all that, then we can um, we can apply what we've learned in that moment to what we're doing now. Did that help answer, or did I kind of bring even more questions for you, Brenda?
No, I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. And really, you were talking, I didn't never thought about that being the self-reflection being past and awareness being present, but you're kind of doing a little bit of both. Like if you're
You are.
reflecting on something, you're bringing it into the present moment and making it your present too. So that's interesting.
Absolutely. And it so one of these times, Brenda, oh, I have to come back and do something on emotional intelligence and all that. But when we do that, we dive a lot into self-awareness and social awareness and the reflection on how we get there. There's a lot of benefits, and you're right, they're absolutely interdependent with one another. But it's certainly valuable tool and resource to consider, though. There. Oops. Oh, technical difficulties here. Okay, so what I'm going to talk a little bit about, because I love bringing models, right? I work in business. I love being able to apply business principles to everyday things that happen in life, because I really do think your body is your business. Your body, your family, your life, it is a business. And you are the CEO of it. So This is probably the easiest model I think that's out there, and it's called the Driscoll model, and it focuses on what, so what, and now what. It really became uh, Driscoll had developed this in like the 1990s, and it focuses on three whats: the what, the so what, and the now what. And you really want to ask yourself those three simple questions because they can begin to analyze and you can learn from those experiences. So, firstly, you want to describe what the situation or experience was to set in a context, and that'll give you a clear idea of what you're dealing with. And then you want to ask the so what. And uh, so you want to reflect on the experience by asking, so what did we learn from the experience? Um, if you were if you're an individual who's driving to work every day and you tend to go 20 miles over the speed limit to work and you get pulled over, you're going to reflect on that. Did I do the smart thing? Do I really, should I rethink this, or should I position myself to start paying $100 to $500 fines every time I get pulled over? Um, so what did we learn from that experience? Well, you probably learned that I don't want to pay any more money for a speeding ticket, so I may start slowing down on my way into work. But it's something you've learned from that experience that you actually reflected on. And then that final stage of now what? That final stage asks us to think about the action we will take from the reflection. Will we change a behavior? Will we try something new? Or will we just keep on going and carrying on as we are? It is important to remember that there may be no changes as the result of reflection, and that we feel that we are doing everything as we should. That's okay. Um, Sometimes during the reflection process, nothing does change because we've made a conscious decision that we don't want to change that behavior. This is not made to force anyone to change a behavior. It's only important to help us guide our actions or explore different ways of doing things so we can, quite honestly, increase our productivity and performance in life. And that's a really important thing for us to consider if we want to be successful. Because if we don't do this, what the typical outcome is going to be is things are going to start falling apart, or you're not going to be successful. And no one wants that for you, because we all have worked so hard to get where we are, to get through this program. And all you post-ops, that it's not easy to get surgery like this approved, depending on your insurance carrier sometimes. So all these sacrifices that we've made, we want to sustain the positive outcomes of weight loss and being healthy and having more energy and feeling great and looking great. All of those are valuable outcomes. So when we start falling apart from that, or when things start kind of slipping away, um, that's when the system starts to fall apart. So self-reflection is really the first step, the very first step that you can use to begin a plan or to begin a process to make things improve and get better.
Rick, I also just think too, it's not just about like I agree. Probably the most important reason probably for self-reflection as far as growth is um those challenges and those things that we're like looking at to see where we could change to do something different. But also it's a great way to reflect on self-reflection is reflecting on the things we did right and that are going well too, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's just so actually, Brenda, that's awesome. And that is the positive reinforcement that we want to achieve. And when we recognize that, I actually love that you brought that up. When we recognize that, it's actually gonna affect you not only emotionally but physically, because by self-reflecting on positive things, um, you'll start building your motivation, because motivation again is an outcome. You can't have the motivation first to achieve something. You have to achieve something first in order to get the motivation. So by self-reflecting on the positive things, you're remembering outcomes that have happened, and it's actually going to help induce motivation into your body and your brain. It's going to release those chemicals that we need. And it's just going to be a really positive experience for everyone. Thank you for sharing that, Brenda. That's great.
Yeah, no, and it makes me think too, like many of these people who have been like listeners and have been jumping on here know that I kind of started doing some working with the trainer. It's been 3 weeks now, and she sent me a little summary last week and said, awesome job looking at your numbers. You dropped 2% body fat, lost almost 3%, 3 pounds of body fat, and converted 2 pounds of fat to muscle. So the reason why I bring this up is because like on the scale, it only looked like a half a pound. But like whenever I know that I'm doing something that's making a difference, because sometimes we're like look invested in the short term, like we see something short term and it's hard for us to see like the long term things. Like if you are doing something for 6 months or for a year, we're going to talk fitness because that is kind of like what I was just sharing about. But sometimes it's not just about the, just where we are right now. Sometimes it makes a difference. You will thank yourself a year from now,
Yeah,
basically, kind of thing.
absolutely. And that kind of reminds me of something that happened a couple years ago. I was kind of in a place where where I could see the weight off the scale drop, but I couldn't see it so much physically, right? And I like almost had trouble believing that progress was happening. So what I did was I actually self-reflected on this, and through doing some research on my own and everything, I discovered that there's tests out there that can kind of help me with this. And this is what I mean by that. So I I was actually talking with my physical trainer, and I think this is what brought it up, was that when we go through this type of rapid weight loss surgery, and especially in the, we'll say, the over 25-year-olds and all that, where our skin's not as elastic anymore. Y'all know what I'm talking about when we have that loose skin. And the trainer had suggested to me, you know what? You weigh this on the scale, but you probably have like 30 pounds of loose skin hanging from your body. And I guess I really never thought of that. And what I did was I decided to go get what's called a DEXA scan. And it's really cool. You lay on this bed in this device that kind of looks like a CAT scan machine, and it goes over your entire body, and it actually measures how much skin is on your body. So it'll measure your skin, your water, your bone mass, your muscle mass, and it really opened my eyes, and it kind of helped me stay motivated to keep going where I'm going. So there's all those little things that could happen. Aren't physical trainers great though? They can really help push us and motivate us to do better. And I I've always had a really positive experience with them. So if anyone's ever thinking about going to a physical trainer, talk to Brenda. We'll we will definitely convince you on how great that is. It's
Well, I
definitely
think it's like the accountability part
it.
for me.
There's that too.
It has somebody like showing you the ropes, but
Yeah,
also having somebody there to make sure you're showing up for yourself.
absolutely. And
Thanks,
and
Rick.
and they can also bring some maybe some fitness techniques that you were unaware of, like safe ways of doing exercises. I think that was really important for me to learn the safe way to do an exercise, or the correct way to do an exercise. And I kind of started that mainly because I didn't want to look like a spaz at the gym or something like that. But yeah, just a really, really good experience. So the other model that I like to just talk about, it's called the Gibbs reflective model. And So there's six action parts to this. And the first part is the description part, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to ask the person um, to describe the situation in detail. We really want to dive in and just kind of get descriptive as possible. And if any of you have ever done any mindful activities like mindful eating or mindful recreation or just anything like that, you're really focusing in the moment, right? Like detail after detail after detail. And I remember with mindful eating in that we did it on a raisin, and we put the raisin in our mouth, and we just kind of close our eyes, and we really experience what first the texture was, what the smell was, what the taste was, and you really want to do everything to explore every part of your five senses. And that can be really helpful to kind of dive into the nitty gritty as far as describing the situation in as much detail as possible. And you want to ask yourself, like when and where did it happen? Uh, why was I there? Who else was there? What happened? Get those details as much as possible. And then we want to move into the next step of the feelings, which I think is totally important. We need to empathize, we need to forgive. And we want to encourage um, what we thought and felt during that experience. So we'll ask questions like why, like what did I actually feel? What I felt, what I feel. How did they feel? How did so those are the types of questions that you will ask yourself during that process, all about feelings. I feel, I felt. Then we're always going to get to an evaluation phase, right? Because we um uh we need to be able to look objectively at what approaches are working, what have worked, what is working. All of that's important, and that's always going to be evolving through any process. We always evaluate what was positive about the situation, what was negative about the situation, what went well, what didn't go so well. Those are questions that we will ask ourselves continuously. It's like a full circle that's kind of rotating around everything. Because when we ask ourselves those questions, we may come across a situation that we realize, yeah, you know what? This part of the plan or this part of the process isn't working. So why wait till the very end in order to redo it? Why not change it now and then explore if it's working? And it tends to happen a lot in the workplaces. It happens a lot in the family life. Oh, excuse me. If something's not working at work, do you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again? I mean, you probably could, right? But you're not going to keep your job much longer. So we're always going to fine tune things and try new things out. It's okay. By the way, it's okay to experiment and try. And you can certainly, um, if you're unsure about something during this process, you can always talk to a nutritionist or psychologist or a doctor, or maybe someone that's been through the process themselves, someone that can share a conversation with you to kind of bounce ideas back and forth. It's all valuable during that evaluation process. And we need to develop a conclusion, right? So step four is developing that conclusion. And once you've evaluated the situation, you can help draw conclusions about what happened. Encourage yourself to think about the situation again, just kind of revisiting everything. And then ask questions like, how could this have been a positive experience for everyone involved? Um, what skills do you need to develop so that you can handle the type of situation better? So it's developing that plan or beginning to develop that plan. And then, of course, that last step is the action, right? It's get out there and do it, make the change, make it happen. And then constantly, as you can see, if you can see in the diagram, for those of you that are on a call and can't see this, I have a little circle, a wheel kind of going around, and it's always spinning. It's always moving. So just because we're at step 5 doesn't mean we're not going to go back to step 1 again, because it's always spinning, it's always circling. And these are some really actionable items that complement the Gibbs reflective model very well. So those are really 2 models, I think, that could be super beneficial to kind of recognize and maybe explore through. And we need that guided self-assessment, right? So uh, we need to explore ourselves. So we need to check our mind, our body, our soul, work, play. All that stuff is important. So when we focus on our mind, do we feel clear-headed, engaged, intellectually challenged? With body, does your body feel healthy, nourished, and strong? Those are really good indicators going through this process, because if you're feeling weak and tired at times, we really need to take a step back and be like, why? I had to remember when I first started working out, and about 3 months after I had the surgery, I was working out hardcore. I was working with a trainer 5 days a week. And there were many times when my body would be sore or I would be weak. And I really had to self-analyze that. I remember one time I was driving home from a workout, just had my trainer just worked me into the ground that day. And I thought I was drinking enough water, right? But on my drive home on the highway, my whole body locked up on me. I mean, I could barely move my fingers. It was so bad. And quite honestly, it was a little terrifying too. I'm on a highway driving and my body's locked up. It took every ounce of energy for me to drive off an exit and pull into a gas station that was off the ramp. And even then, I'm thinking I'm having a stroke. Because I tried calling a friend of mine to meet me and maybe take me to the hospital or something. And just using speech recognition in my car, I couldn't even get words out of my mouth. I was slurring speech and everything, and it was really, really terrifying to me. And for months, I must have went through test after test after test, and we just couldn't figure out. And then we finally figure out what it was. I was dehydrated. So when I was self-reflecting and did my own research on it and talking with people that I felt were experts, I had learned that I was actually dehydrated. So uh, that's a moment where self-reflection really helped me to kind of analyze what my behaviors were that led me to this situation. So so understanding or exploring, um, uh, trying to find the root cause of what led to that disaster, um, I did through self-exploration, or self-reflection. So it really is a powerful and useful tool that we should have in our bags. And after body, we do need to focus on our soul, and it can be religious, sure, but when I mean soul, I mean our inner happiness, right? What what makes us smile? Have what makes us happy? And all of those things are really, really valuable. And then next is work. Do you feel interested and fulfilled by your work? And then playing, right? We need to have a work-life balance. So we need to feel joyful. We need to be happy. We need to be engaging in activities that bring us joy. Are we doing that? And oops. Well, my slides are going a little crazy here. There. Um, and lastly, love, right? We gotta feel positive about the relationships in our life. I think that's where probably I've done my most self-reflection on with the issues that happen at home, right? But they all affect us stress, and stress sometimes causes us to eat more or to eat bad stuff or bad make bad choices. So really is helpful, but not only to feel positive about the relationships in your life, not only others, but you need to love yourself. You need to feel positive about yourself, your body image, um, um, your personality, your accomplishments. And this is a huge accomplishment for many of us, right? And we want to see that sustained. We don't want to get any worse with that. And the questions that like we can ask ourselves is, what are my core values, and am I living in alignment with them? So now here's where I'm kind of treating things like a business, right? Because businesses have core values and principles. So so what are your core values, and are you following them? What habits or behaviors are holding you back from reaching your full potential, and how can you change them? And how do you prioritize time and energy? And are they aligned with your goals? And all these different types of questions are really, really important. And what physical activities have you enjoyed doing in the past? What types of bad foods do you know that if you taste or start eating it, it's difficult to stop? We all have them. There's always that trigger food, I think, out there, or a smell that leads to a trigger food. For me, it was chocolate. You have one piece of chocolate and you're just going, and I'm just going downhill for the day. So I have choices, right? I either just avoid it altogether, or I can just hoard on it and gain all the weight back that I've lost, and certainly not feel very great, right? Because after having gastric bypass, the odds are I'm going to get dumping syndrome. But it's a choice, and I'm only going to make that choice by self-reflecting on how I felt after eating that piece of chocolate. And actually, I'm kind of self-reflecting now. And if you really think about it, think about when you've maybe had a moment where you knew that you were going to maybe not do something good with your eating, right? It's okay. We don't have to be honest with others. We just need to be honest with ourselves. But we, I think in those moments that I think it's important to not only reflect on what you ate that caused that binging to happen, but how you felt afterwards. Because I don't know about everyone else, but with me, if I tend to eat not so great, and we've all done it, but if you tend to eat not so great, I feel kind of sluggish. And just emotionally, I don't feel good about myself for doing it. I get really angry with myself. And for those of you that were in the last um, session I did, that's where imposter syndrome starts developing. So self-reflection can actually help us avoid imposter syndrome situations, or it can help us manage through those situations. Um, so it really is a power, and it seems like a simple concept, right? Oh, I self-reflect, but there really is an art as far as doing that deep dive and just going to the finer details of everything. There are some great resources out there. I think the most popular one that a lot of my friends have done is journaling. Either you get a diary or a journal and you either handwrite it, or or sometimes you can get an online journal and type it in the computer and just save everything electronically. But the nice thing about that is it allows you a time to kind of self-reflect. So if you can't do self-reflection within that first 24 hours or like 48 hours, when you journal it after it happened, and you don't need to do a lot, just a few sentences to jot your memory, or maybe some bullet points as far as how it made you feel. And then maybe a week or two after, you come back to that and read it, and you'll start remembering things. So it really does help us stay focused and keep a record of incidents that have happened in the past so we can go back and revisit them. Now myself, I like the voice recorder. Um, and it's just a simple small device to uh, uh, record things that I've been through the day. I use it for taking notes. It's really another way of journaling. It's just instead of writing or typing, it's just all audible. And with me, I ended up having 30 post-it notes around my desk. So the voice recorder was more practical for me. You all Everyone needs to find that niche, what's more valuable for you, because we all have different experiences, we all have different levels of education, we all have different work experiences, life experiences, all that stuff that actually different families, different cultures, sometimes different countries, and it's all those collected experiences that make us who we are today. And most people are like a visual learner, some are an audio learner, and some are tactile, like you have to touch something to learn. So think of which one you are, and then try to explore or discover devices that may help you journal or record that information easier. Meditation, really valuable. It can be very helpful to kind of breathe and be in your own voice and have some quiet, and which will allow you to focus more. Does that just is does that mean you have to meditate? Absolutely not. Some people actually prefer to play music, right? I know friends that can only study with music or a TV playing in the background. I can't do that. I have to have it quiet. So I tend to either lock myself in a room or I'll wear noise canceling headphones. But uh, we all study and learn in different ways, and reflection is a learning process. Talk to your family, friends, or a stranger. Sometimes that conversation going back and forth can really trigger some ideas, and it can be helpful to also get perspectives from other individuals. Sometimes talking to a stranger is really valuable. Some people don't feel comfortable talking to their friends or family because they're embarrassed, but maybe more comfortable just talking with a stranger off the street, someone that's not going to judge them, or they won't feel judged. Uh, Mental health practitioner or PCP, a doctor, medical professional, nutritionist, they're all valuable resources to help you go through this. And then my big one that I kind of like is data analytics. And Brenda, you kind of touched on this a little bit with your trainer in tracking. I think you mentioned that, right? That you were tracking stuff and all that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So all that's helpful though, because you now have a pattern and history of ups and downs, and if something stayed the same, and you can always reflect upon or reflect back on that and find out what the outlier is, what's different that that caused this to happen, what's different from the regular pattern. Those things can be indicators to help us self reflect also. I think Socrates got it right when and he basically said when we fail to reflect on our lives, we lose perspective, get caught up in things that don't matter, and often lose sight of things that are most important. Um, and lastly, what I want to add is we have to own our truth. We will not self-reflect um, effectively if we ourselves aren't true to ourselves. So what do I mean? What do I mean by that? you can tell me that you exercise every single day and you eat under 1,200 calories a day. But in reality, maybe you eat 15 to 1,800 calories a day and you exercise 1 day a week, or maybe not at all. And so you can tell me whatever you want, but don't lie to yourself, because if you start doing that, then you're one, you may end up starting to believe it. Two, you're not going to be motivated to make the change, because you're actually tricking your mind. It's like doing your own neurolinguistic programming, but you're tricking your mind to think a different way. So really be truthful with yourself, and that will allow you to be more genuine when you start self-reflecting. Um, I am totally willing to take any questions or discussions, or if anyone wants to talk about anything. Uh, I'd love to hear any ideas that you may have out there on what you use to help self-reflect. If you do journaling or something like that, I'd love to have you kind of share how valuable that experience has been for you, and just kind of help us all out here on some ideas on how we may self-reflect a little better.
I'm kind of looking at comments. I'm gonna see if anybody has anything. A couple people had mentioned their own way of self-reflecting. Laura says, I like silence and hate people in my businesses. Sometimes they're judgmental. Uh, and then we have Lori says that she does some of the same things as I do. I had mentioned in our comment section, I like journaling, meditation, talking to someone, usually a friend, and she says that she does the same. And Nancy said her way is all mental. Jennifer says, I love listening to music or do some grounding
Oh,
exercises. That's
that's a great
great.
one.
You know, the grounding exercises actually, the things that Rick mentioned earlier, using your senses, like your all of your senses,
Five
it kind
senses,
of
yeah.
brings you back into your body and it helps you to process things in a different way. So I totally get that. That's a great way of doing things. I think some of my biggest growth periods have been whenever I have like really looked at a situation, like reflected back on it, and then kind of moving forward. So some of those things would be like you were talking about earlier, Rick, relationships. I know one of the biggest times in my life as far as a family relationship would be with my father. And we always kind of had this clashing. I think now I can kind of recognize that probably we were more like each other than I ever thought. And we just, had these things. And so for me, one of the biggest things, sometimes people call it forgiveness, but for me, it was about like looking back and having major amount of compassion for the things that he went through in his life and me being able to understand why he did some of the things he did or acted some of the ways he acted. And it brought me so much peace because when we're compassionate, and also you guys thinking about how you've done the same things in your life, because a lot of times it's a reflection when you see a relationship or a person outside of you consider it outside of yourself, and you see some of the things they're doing, it's only
Mhm.
because you recognize those things within yourself. So whether it's being controlling, or whether it's being angry, or whether it's being fearful, when you see somebody else doing something that kind of like triggers you or upsets you or whatever, many times it's because we recognize those same aspects within ourselves. And it's very hard to come to terms with that sometimes unless you're just truly, like Rick says, own your own truth. Like, be honest with yourself. It's okay, like you can lie to everybody else, but I'm
Right?
telling you, it doesn't help to lie to yourself.
Really does it. I think also sometimes through self-reflection, we realize that, you know what? There's nothing I can do about it. And sometimes that's even helpful. So, like an example of that is very recent for me. Last year, I went through three colon surgeries, and I'm like, I am done. I am done with these 50-year older these diseases and everything. But so when you go through that, you can't exercise for at least like a month, and going through three of them, and then the second one I had a complication, so it just extended longer. So I think I figured out that I had a total of 5 months last year that I could not do any exercise with. And for those of you that do it, you know that you have to build your stamina up over time, right? So the levels I were at or that I was at lifting weights all the way back down, right? I used to be able to run 3 miles at least, and not anymore. I'm getting back up there, but sometimes you have to start over. So what happened with that? Well, I felt like my life was falling apart. I felt like that nothing was going right for me. I didn't feel like myself. I wasn't feeling as positive or proactive, and I really had to do a lot of self-reflection and realizing, well, wait a minute, it's not like you can control this. You can't control this. This is something that's happened in life. You just can't control it. You have to accept it and then move on. So what I had to do was I had to reflect, realize that, and then I realized, well, wait a minute, maybe I'm coming down on myself a little too hard here, and things will get better. This is only a momentary point in my life. Yeah, just stay focused. And then I had to figure out, okay, well, what about nutrition? I obviously can't eat as many calories as I was before, because my metabolism, had dropped a little bit. Well, actually, you know what? It dropped a lot. And just my full disclosure, I had a resting metabolism rate of 2,200 calories. I was working out that much. So what that means, everyone, is that I can literally sit on my ass all day doing nothing and burn 2,200 calories just sitting. Um, and when you exercise, this is a positive thing about exercising. When you exercise, and it doesn't have to be a gym, go for a walk. But if you exercise regularly and you keep building your stamina up, what happens is your resting metabolism will increase, and that's better for you because it'll start burning then. It'll burn more. So it does help. But so that's just my long way around, just kind of agreeing with you first, Brenda, and then it this is a rough process. Well, it's not rough, but it's certainly challenging at times, and none of us, I think, want to be in a position where we gain the weight back. So self-reflection might be one of those resources and tools out there that could be really valuable for you. Um, Heck, I even use self-reflection, Brenda, when I switched over to the ProCare vitamins. These are literally the best vitamins I've ever had in my life. So I will. So this is my ProCare plug, and for the record, they don't pay me to do this. This is an amazing vitamin, and I have tried a lot. I used to be so big on the I think it's Opuri ones, or I forget the name of the company, but uh, uh, after trying these ones, and these are the multivitamin chews, the multi flavors, and all three flavors are really good. Um, it's just a great price, and you get 60 of them. That's 2 months worth, right? It, it's just amazing, and they taste great, and they don't get stuck in your teeth like a lot of those other chewy ones do. These ones actually dissolve really well. I don't feel like it's sticking to the back of my throat like some of the other ones do. So in my assessment, these are, or my reflection, these are definitely the top ones. And Brenda, that's my plug for you because keep rocking those products though.
I love that. Well, I'll share it with everybody how to find those because those are one of my favorites too.
They're
I have
great.
another favorite too. I will share that. Thank you so much, Rick. Yeah, and I appreciate you being willing. There is actually a couple comments too before I kind of share how to get a hold of those. I would love to share
Yeah.
this because there is a question. Nancy says, not sure how to word this. When self-reflecting, how do we make ourselves a victim of circumstances or of others in our own accountability goals? So basically, like when you're reflecting, how do you not make yourself a victim of circumstance? Do you have a recommendation for that?
So this is a good example of where that self-awareness uh, can come into
Like, what is your
play.
part? Like
Exactly.
asking yourself, what is your part? Yes, because we always have a part, like
Yeah.
whether it's just how we're responding to something, because you have to remember what you have control over. You don't have control over the other person, right?
Correct.
But you have control over how you feel, how you respond, what
Uh,
steps you take, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's like a cornerstone to emotional intelligence too, is in a nutshell, we cannot change the behavior of others. We can only change how we react to that behavior. So I can choose to feel victimized. And don't get me wrong, I still feel victimized on some things today, but when I do, I actually go home and I'll process it a little bit and say, well, okay, what really happened here? Why are they feeling this way? Why did they yell at me? Why are they coming down on me? And you really start to explain, you really start thinking about it, and then you may come up with a answer that could be helpful, like this person, maybe they had a death in their family, because we really don't know what's happening in other people's lives on a daily basis. I mean, somewhat, but not in the details. And as you know from experience, and I'm talking rhetorically to everybody, but we know that um, the more stress we have and the more issues that happen in a moment actually will make us crabby and grumpy and mean sometimes and mad and angry. And I want to back up a little bit too, Brenda, because you had talked about emotions earlier, like the happy and the sad and all that. Are you familiar with the primal emotions? So we have primal emotions in our DNA, and the majority of them are all negative emotions: anger, fear, um, uh, and then we got one positive one: joy, happy and joy. They kind of put that together. So okay, so in my DNA, I'm programmed already to be miserable. And we get this from the prehistoric and the caveman days and all that. But the and I only have one positive emotion, so that tells me I got to work a little harder to kind of sometimes get that happiness, right? So the reason why I bring that up, because I think it's important that if we do feel that way or feel victimized, we need to forgive ourselves for feeling that way. Don't forgive yourself first. And then ask those what questions. Those what questions are great. Like, what happened? Who was involved? Uh, and then just continue on and on, and until you're able to really get down to that nitty gritty in the detail, as far as, okay, why am I really feeling victimized here? Do I not understand what's going on? Maybe it was something on my fault. This is where the own your truth is going to be important. Just forgive yourself. It's okay to forget. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to misbehave a little bit, maybe. That's life. We just need to own it and be accountable for that. Did that help answer that question, or maybe maybe offer some support to the problem?
I think so, Rick. I think it
Okay.
does a lot. Yeah, I think basically, Yeah, it definitely does. There's another comment here. Donna says, oh boy, this rings a bell. COVID and oxygen and Lyme's disease and food allergies, inflammation, not being able to move, gained it's hard to build stamina. So she gets it. And she said it may not be easy. And I just say, like for myself, I was recognizing that my body was more tired. And I don't know. Honestly, it's been on going on since COVID. I had
Yeah.
gotten COVID back in 2020, I think it was. And literally, I've been struggling since then, on and off. And so I thought, how do it's about asking yourself instead of like continuing in that stage of the victim mode. It's like, what can I do? Like, what do
Right.
I have control over? Like, can
Exactly.
I do a little bit of physical movement to try to build up? Or I don't know, just asking yourself what you can do. And if you can't, like if the answers don't come real easily to you, then finding someone else to brainstorm with can be helpful because sometimes people can help you see out of the box. Jennifer also mentions, she also mentioned something about the vitamins. She's saying here, she said she loves the citrus grove. And that's actually the other vitamin that I was going to mention because it is incredible. It's like one of my very favorites. So, Rick, before I kind of jump onto the ProCare website and show just a few things from our sponsor, can you, how can people get a hold of you if they're interested? And how can I have your information saved? I can paste it here in the chat box. But is there anything you'd like to say as far as closing and also that?
Sure. So in closing, I would say uh, uh, one, it's okay to make mistakes. Two, we have to learn to forgive ourselves and figure out what's important to us internally. And then finally, if you're having difficulty kind of self-reflecting or exploring an issue, look for those supportive structures. And Brenda, I'll just throw out there that so the issue that I went through last year, and I'm just now getting back to the gym. I just got permission to go back March 5th, literally that quick. I said, okay, I got to get back to the trainer. So I made that choice that I need someone to push me to get back to the level that I was at. So I don't need that support anymore. And it's okay to get those supportive structures. We're all here to help each other. I'm willing to talk with anyone. And the best way to contact me is so my email address is rick at possibilities-leadership.com, or my cell number is 413-552-7768. Those are two best ways to get a hold of me. I take text, I'll take phone calls. If you prefer to email, I don't mind responding back or reaching out to you. If you want me to reach out to you, just let me know if you prefer by email or give me a contact number. But thank you so much, Brenda, for having me on board and getting a chance to share that with you. I always have so much fun with you.
I always have a good time with you too. And I think our people do too. And that's why we keep having you back. Um, okay, so I got your email, Rick at possibilities-leadership.com and his LinkedIn profile too, because he is on LinkedIn. And I pasted that for all of you. And we're going to just share something from our sponsor here, ProCare Health Vitamins and Supplements. And I'm going to go up here to the procarenow.com website. So if you're listening and you're not watching, you could just pay attention here. But when you get to procarenow.com, in order to find the products, here it is right on the screen here, multivitamin soft chews. So under our products, if you go under the first little bullet point says bariatric multivitamins, and Rick's pick today is the bariatric multivitamin chew. I will say that is, like I said, one of my tops. I'm going to go down. It's down on the pages just a little bit, maybe about halfway. I went too far. And I have it pulled up separately. A 60 count bottle is a total of $27.86 if you do a subscription, or it's $30.95 for one-time purchase. So
Now,
that'll get you
how How incredible is that, right? Less than $31, and you get a 2-month supply. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but all the vitamins I've tried to get, you pay more than that, and you only get a 30-day supply. So ProCare, thumbs up, 2 thumbs up from me.
And we do have a little thing on here too. So for some people that might last maybe a little bit less than that, depending on the surgery type you had. So if you've not had weight loss surgery, it's 1 chew a day, or if you've had a band, it's 1 chew a day. Other surgeries might be 2 to 6, depending on your doctor's recommendations. So if you have questions, you can definitely reach out. I'll put my email in the chat box. It's hainb@procarenow.com. So some other surgeries might be a little bit different. You could also look at the supplemental facts if you have questions regarding what exactly is in each of the bottles. And then I also want to say one of my other favorite products is the one that was mentioned in the chat box, and that is our new orange citrus scented tablet. It's a smooth tablet that goes down really easily. We have a 30 count bottle and a 90 count bottle. Those are just a 1 a day. And a 30 count bottle on that is 17. It's subscribe and save is 13.70. My screen keeps refreshing. And a one-time purchase is 17.38. So that one there is a wonderful way. Now, if anyone has never tried ProCare and they want to try some of these different products before purchasing, you can click on the interested in a free sample button. On the top of the ProCare website, there's a little blue line that runs across, and you can click on that and request a sample. Our multivitamin chews, the ones Rick's talking about right now, I think might be out of stock right now. I'm not absolutely 100% positive. Let me see if it's showing up on our site. It looks like it might be, so it might be back. It'll let you know whether or not whenever you get to the tab. The other thing I want to mention on our ProCare site, just very quickly, there's a little tab that says Very Connected. Very Connected is our podcast, which you are listening to right now. We have a lot of ways to connect to that. Each month, we list all of our events for the month on our website. And as you scroll down, you're going to see some things pop up. Sometimes it takes it here a second. Rick's event will be on replay until the end of the month. And then we have others to pick from. We have the Berry Girls coming on. We also have Shar Holmes coming up this month, as well as a support group with love and relationships. And that'll be a week early this month on April 11th. All of our replays, including this one, will be listed on our Very Connected podcast channel. Usually it takes about a week for those to be listed. YouTube channel, if you click on that little icon, or on our Facebook page, you can connect with us on Facebook or on our Facebook page or Facebook group, Very Connect and Very Connected. Our YouTube channel is ProCare Health and Vitamins and Supplements. So, and I pulled up, if you type in, there's a little search button right here as you get onto the ProCare Health website. If you type in Rick Tremblay, you can actually look at the other 3 events that we've done with Rick: understanding imposter syndrome and how it affects weight loss, applying business principles and models to bariatric surgery weight loss, and using micro goals to successfully achieve your New Year's resolutions. So those are 3 that we've done with Rick before. Also press the subscribe button, because you'll get notifications when new events are downloaded and pasted. And that looks like we have a few more chat features. It looks like everybody's just thanking us. And I just want to say we appreciate your time as well, for being on the call with us and spending time for yourself.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next episode. Right, Rick?
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.